All right, let's get going. I'd like you to please get into Android Studio, and we're going to start up a new project. Now, just so you see it, I'm going to show you what the completed project is going to look like. Yours is going to look different, of course, but all right, basically what it'll look like. God knows you don't want it to look like that. All right, so what's going to happen is you're going to have 4 buttons on here: an education button, a work history button, a call me button, and an email me button. All right, and you are going to end up having a total of 3 activities. Well, we'll do all that in a second. So when you click education, it's kind of what you think would happen, something like this. Now, I didn't do much on mine. It's not pretty or anything like that, but you get the idea looking at it. And when I click work history, same kind of thing. All right? And the call me, notice what that's going to do. It's going to bring up the phone for the emulator. I don't think the emulator can actually make calls. And the reason I think that is if it could, well, what would stop you from making long-distance calls with it, I suppose. You know, somebody would figure that out. And then finally, let's see. Yeah, get rid of that. Yeah. The last one, the email me, it's going to bring up something that's going to look, well, hopefully, it works. There you go. Like this. And again, I don't know if it'll work or not from here. You might need an actual device. So when I came in today at 6:30, so these things charged for 5 hours this morning. I have no idea if they're going to work or not. All right, but I've got them in there, and you can I'll give you each one. All right, and we can take a look and see if we can actually hook up to a regular physical device. All right. So with that said, let me stop the run here. So what I'd like you to do, and I'm going to do the same thing along with you, I'm going to give you some of the code, and that is I'm going to give you the implicit intents that you're going to need for the phone call and for the email. All right? Now, this is, I'm going to say this, and it's not meant to be funny. I'm going to put my email in, or my phone number in there. You put yours in. Now, if you don't want yours out there for this project, then just make one up. I mean, I don't care. I'm not calling it anyway. I'm going to run these from the emulator. So let me stop close this project, and I'm going to start a new one. All right, so we're going to start a new project. It will again be an empty activity. Let's just call this resume. If you don't like that, come up with something similar. I've already got one that's called resume JPS. Just resume is fine. Like I said, if you want to call it something else, that's also fine. All right, and let's finish. Now, I'm not going to go through with you how to go and do the explicit intents. So, as far as going to the education screen and going to the work history screen, I'm figuring you guys can do that by now, right? We did that as a class. I don't think that's going to be any trouble. All right? So I'm just going to help you, so to speak, with the other one. All right, so what I'd like you to do then is in your activity main. Now, I asked you to do this, and how many of you did it, I guess we'll find out now. But I asked you to go in and take a picture of yourself. All right, if you didn't take one, it's okay. Just use the avatar one. That'll be fine. I'm going to let this load, then we'll get going. My guess is this will take somewhere upwards of a half an hour or so. The rest of the period will be lab, but before that, I'm going to give you all the corresponding assignment for this. All right, and then you're going to have today and tomorrow as labs all period. On Wednesday, I'm going to give you your next test, okay? Now, that said, you're going to get plenty of time to work on that. We'll go over all that stuff as we get going. And my hope is probably on Thursday, we're going to spend most of the period, we're going to go over Unit 4 or Lesson 4 of this, all right? I like to set it up personally, if possible, that Fridays will be lab days. I don't think anybody has a problem with that. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is just get rid of this text view that's in there. All right, I'm going to change the color. You can, you don't have to. And I'll just, because I have been doing it, I'm just going to use that purple. All right, again, if you don't want to do that, then don't do that. Come up to the top here where it says image view and bring in an image view. And again, if you don't have a picture of yourself, then just grab a different picture or use the avatar, that's fine. I will expect when you turn this in, it will have a maskless picture of you on it. All right? You may end up wanting to link to this as part of your portfolio. All right? So, oh, you don't know what I want to do. No, I don't, but I'm just saying you might want to do that. All right, so I'm going to make these 16 all the way around. There. All right, then we're going to put in our 4 buttons. How you place these buttons is up to you. You can make 4 buttons in a row. You can make 2 and 2, etc. I don't really care. Just to keep it simple, I'm going to put in 4 buttons just like this. So there's 1, there's 2, there's 3, and there's 4. All right, and I'm just going to quickly link all these things up. Again, you're going to have plenty of time when you can sit and play with this and do whatever you want to do with it. So, oops, don't want to do that. Okay. And again, what you end up calling this stuff is up to you. I will tell you that starting with your next test, if you don't go in and name all of your stuff in the strings file, you're going to get points off. Everybody hear that? All right. So show you how I'm going to do this. And again, if you decide you don't want to do it this way, totally fine. Education should be first. Now yours should be something like this. Again, use whatever names you want to use for your strings in here. Come up with your own standard of doing this. But again, come up with a standard and start to be consistent. All right? So I've got those. Save all. Hope everybody has these who needs them. All right, I'm going to jump back into my activity main then, and I'm going to name all these. So again, the ID for the first one will be BTN Education. The ID for the second one, I don't want to change it all. Yes, I do. For the second one will be BTN Work History. For the third one, I'm going to make it BTN Call Me. And finally, for the last one, I'm going to make it BTN Email Me. Again, when you start working on these yourselves, if you don't like my names, just use your own. I don't have any kind of problem with that. All right, now, I am going to highlight all 4 buttons in a row here, and I'm going to set the width of each one of them. I think I can do that at one time, but we'll find out.
Just don't change any text or...
I'm going to change the text in a minute. So I'm going to make this, I'm going to try 200 dp. Now, well, that was the width. I didn't like the way that looked, so make that 300 dp. Not 30,000. Don't do that. No, that's too big. So 200 should be okay. Okay, so something like that, okay? And then I'll change the names. So the first one, get rid of that text that's in there. And again, the first one should be education. The second one should be work history. If you decide you don't like the order in which I put these, you can change that too. I thought, I mean, you're going to school right now, I thought what I'm showing you would make the most sense. If you don't agree, then you don't agree. All right. So as far as I can tell now, everything there looks okay. All right. It is giving me an error. It's telling me I've got this thing without a content description. It's not an error. It's a warning. It's totally fine. All right. Now, file, I'm going to do a save all, and I'm just quickly, because I don't know, I don't have a clue, I didn't try this before, so I want to see what it looks like in landscape. All right, I'm going to move this over. Again, doesn't look bad. You know, I'm not saying it looks great, but it doesn't look bad in landscape either. All right, okay, jumping back to portrait. All right, that's it for the interface. Questions? If you want to put a heading on it, put a heading on it, you know, whatever you want to do, okay? All right. All right, so I'm going to jump then into main activity here, okay? And I'm going to set up all of my stuff here. I guess I did not rename my image view. I called mine IV headshot, because that's what it's supposed to be, is your headshot. So, jumping then into our main activity. All right, coming up to the top, I set up variables for each one of these, so these. Okay, so that fixed that. Then get the references to the widgets. So be real careful, not like it's a big thing, but if you rely too much on the IntelliSense, this one does not come up as BTN email. It comes up as BTN education. All right, that's why I was wondering, because I didn't look. I just sat there and was typing and typing and typing. And then I ran it and it was like, oh, what the hell? Why am I getting education on this? That was why. Okay, so I'm going to put some stuff in here, but we're going to basically, for lack of better words, for now, we're just going to leave it blank. So I'm going to come in here and do BTN education dot set on click listener. All right, if you type in new followed by a letter V, it's going to look like this. All right, so this is what this should look like when you get done. All right, now, because I'm kind of lazy today, I'm just going to copy this and I'm going to paste it right below and just change the name of the button to BTN Work History. All right, those are things you're going to have to fill in, and I want you to put some information in here, and I want you to put some information in here, in both the education and the work history. Technically, you could fill all that information up in the forms themselves, but I want you to put something in there so you're passing it. I just want you to keep getting practice passing and using explicit intents. Does that make sense to everyone? All right. So we've got those two. And now I'm going to give you the code for the other two, okay? And it's not much code. That's kind of a good thing. So first will be BTN call me dot set on click listener. Again, come in here new V and hit tab, and boom, it filled it all in for me. All right, I think there's a grand total of about 3 lines, okay? So the first thing you have to do, remember, we are using an implicit intent here, all right? What does that mean? That means that we're going to give these things some information, all right, and let it figure out how to do it, for lack of better words. So I'm going to come in here and say URI. What you call this next thing in here is up to you, but since it's going to be a phone number, here's a surprise. I called it phone number, all right? It's not that you have to do that. Equal. I don't even care if you want, use my phone number. It doesn't really matter. All right? And I did my Alt-Enter there. So, just 2 lines. I was a little more descriptive with this one, so I called this one call me intent. Again, you could just call it intent for each one of these, and it'll work just fine. Oops. Now here's where it's different. All right? If you notice, if you look up on your screen here, there are some things here that say action. See that? Now, hopefully you can tell, because we've talked about this both in Java and in other languages, and that is the fact that as these things that you see in here are in uppercase, they're constants. All right, so I'm going to type in here just the word action, just so I want you to see everything that's in here. Okay? And it's not, it is in alphabetic order, because some of these, in fact, I guess it's not in alphabetic order, because the actual one that we want to do, if you look down here, there's one that says dial. See that? That's what we want to do. So we can put in here action underscore dial, or we could have just chosen it from the list. It wouldn't matter. And what do we want to dial? The phone number. Oh. And then we have to start the activity. Now that should be all that you have to do to get that to work. All right? And actually, the email isn't long either. Maybe it's 10 lines or so. All right, but let's see if this works. So I'm going to come in here and do a file, save all, and I'm going to try to run this thing. Now, nothing's going to happen when you click on the work history button. Nothing's going to happen with the education button. Nothing's going to happen with the email button. Does that make sense to everybody? All right, but hopefully we are going to get the phone to come up when we do the call me. Mine is taking its good sweet time. Because it still has the old one here. Oh, no, this is it. Oh, it's not. Again, I'm having a problem with my image views. I don't know why. But let me try call me. All right, see that? Yours should have reacted in a similar way. All right, and you can click here to go back to your main page. Well, you might have to do it a few times. There you go. So we've got that done. So the only thing that's really left to do in here is to put in the email, and then you guys are going to go in and fill in the other two buttons. Does that make sense to everybody? Now, what I'm going to show you here, when we do the email, it's done a little bit differently, but again, we are going to end up using an intent, and it'll be, again, an implicit intent. All right, so we're going to do all that, but it's a little bit different. Now, you don't have to look up here, but please listen. I'm going to show you just the bare bones. In other words, what you'd probably put in an email, okay? Now, that said, I'm not going to put a body in there, but I'm going to put a body in there. I'm going to comment out and show you some other stuff that you can add if you want to. All right, so if that confused you, just watch me put it in, and then you're going to follow along in just a second. So. All right, so everybody have this one for the phone number? Yeah? Okay, so I'm going to move down. That's why I'm asking. So you don't have to hit enter, but I am, just to move this thing up to the top. All right. Since I call the other one call me intent, I call this one email me intent. Again, you could have used the word intent for both, because technically only one of them can be active at a time. All right? Oops. What you do with an email is basically you set it up for an action send. Okay, action send. All right? Now, literally, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more, 6 more lines. And then I'm done lecturing. We will go over the homework. I'm going to pass it out, and we'll go over it together in just a moment. So, now I'm setting this to plain text. If we were emailing something where we were using a bunch of HTML, there's other settings that you can use too. I just kept this, for lack of better words, basically bare bones. All right? All right. Now we're going to actually do some puts in here. Now, I may run out of room. It's email me intent. That's why I'm getting the error. I may run out of room here, so I'm going to put this over 2 lines. Feel free to do that. By no means do you have to do that. All right? Oops. I'm going to recommend that in there all right, just to make sure everything works, that you leave it as your ranking. If you want to try putting in your own Gmail or whatever, go ahead and try. Not a problem. The next, I'm going to put in two more lines here, and I'm going to comment them both out. Right now, what this should do is that basically it should send it automatically to my email, and the subject on it should automatically be resume received. Does that make sense? I can go in and actually put in here some extra text. All right? So in other words, I could make it, for lack of better words, kind of like a form letter. All right, so I'm going to just show you how you can do that. Oops. All right, I'm just going to put this over 2 lines. And I have to learn to spell. So something like that. I mean, you could literally put in anything in there you wanted to put in. Move this over a little so you can make sure you can see it all. And then finally, we have to start our activity. Okay, that's everything. So when you look at this, just taking the whole global perspective on it, again, these are both internal, or implicit, I should say, intents. All right? With this one, we've got to give it information. We have to let it know it's a telephone number and what the number is. All right? Other than that, we have to, since we are using a built-in intent, we want to tell it to dial that phone number. I don't think there's really probably anything real surprising about that. The other one is for the email, and as you can see, we're saying that we're sending plain text. We're saying that basically it's going to jpscott@rankin.edu. We're giving it a subject line, and even though I commented it out, we're kind of giving it a body line in there too. All right. Now, the reason that I commented it out is some people might find that really presumptuous for you to sit there and actually set something up for them that's actually got an email body in it. They may think that really stinks and that you don't want to turn them off. But it depends. You could put that in there if you wanted to put that in there. All right? So when I come in here and I do a file and I do a save all, and I'm going to come back and I'm going to run this again. So there it is. So now if I go over, wait till it's still running, I think. Yes, it is. Now, you may or may not remember this, back when we were in lesson 1. All right, so back when we were in lesson 1, so let me open that up again. That was it, but maybe this isn't it. I know it's in chapter 1. Someplace in chapter 1 here, Unless it's 2, but I thought it was 1. There we go. Hardware device. Okay, so what I'm going to want you to do in just a few minutes is to go and bring back up the first lesson and go to page 47. It says always test your apps on a physical device. Now again, if this doesn't work, hey, I'm sorry, like I said, these things are like at least 2 years old, if not 3. All right? The other thing is, come fall, the next spring, the next time this class is taught, all right, either students are going to have their own tablets or they won't have a tablet period to test on. Since it's going to be online, all right, it's not like we're going to sit there and send these out to people. That ain't going to happen. All right? So I'd like you to try these and see if they work. All right? And if they don't, fine. All right? But again, when you come in here, otherwise, if you click email me, it'll come up and do some stuff like this. But I believe there's no way you can't do emails, to my knowledge, from the emulator. And when you think about that there's actually 2 reasons that's really important. Number 1 is security. Because if you could, that might make it really hard to figure out where something came from if you were to send something malicious out. All right. And second, again, depending on what the kind of emails, etc., you could set up spam bots, etc., and a lot of different stuff in there if that was the case. So I don't think any of it'll work. All right. So with that said, let me go over the homework with you, and I've got that right here. Give everybody a copy. So I'm going to give you 3 if you could pass 2 of them down, please. Now, it looks like a lot, but I did screenshots of a bunch of stuff in here, so you can see what's what. I'm going to bring it up on the screen here as well. All right, so here it is. Notice it's due a week from Wednesday, so you should have plenty of time to work on this. I'm trying to space these things out enough. And I will tell you, my wife's birthday is today, so she decided that all last weekend was her birthday weekend. So I didn't do hardly anything at all weekend. Plus, after watching that Packers debacle on Saturday night, I didn't want to grade anything on Sunday. Okay? So, as it says here, the following grading criteria will be used. So for the extended app, works as intended. When each button is pressed, the correct action occurs. Now again, when I test yours, I don't really even have to test. I can test your email and I can test your call, all right? But it should look just like mine does. So this, again, you may change the number, you may not. And so notice that's worth 20 points. All right. For the Guess Extended app, sound correct logic is used. So in other words, no dry in here, do not repeat yourself. All right, and it runs correctly with valid inputs. I'm going to show you mine in just a minute because I've made some changes to it. And you may care, you may not care. Either way, it's fine. And the app handles invalid inputs correctly. All right. Both of them should have, as it says there, be designed with a professional look and feel. That's 10 points each, and all of the requirements that have been shown and they're starting to be shown here are going to be followed. So, I don't want to sit and read to you, okay? Now, the home page, as it says, has to have a picture of you without a mask. All right? Now, when I did mine originally on here, notice I had work history first and then education. I flipped them. If you think, no, you know what, I'd really rather have, I don't like the order in which you put these, you can put them in any order you want. I'm not going to give you points or take points off for that. That's not really that important a thing. All right? But you should have a home page. The home page should have 4 buttons on it. If you decide for whatever reason you'd want a couple more buttons, you can do that. All right? And it says in there, add a thing to the bottom of each of these pages to go back to the main page. That's the education and the work history. We've done that in class where we added the click listener and we just put finish in there. So you've already got that. There's nothing new there. Same thing with the education. Now with the work history, notice what I put in here. All right? Put in any relevant jobs you've had, including volunteer work. Now that said, and I'm telling you this because not here, but the school I used to work at, I don't care when you were 6 that you had a lemonade stand. All right? You don't have to put in stuff like that. But anything you've been doing basically since you've been 16 that you'd want people to know about. All right? I mean, some of you I know in here in this room right now are doing things when you're more customer service type of things. So you're showing people that you've acquired those skills. All right? With the education, as it says, put in here what you've done at Rankin and, if applicable, any other higher learning institutions. Now, maybe you went for a year or 2 years, or maybe you even got a degree from St. Charles Community College or someplace else. You can put that in there. Don't put high school stuff in there. They don't care. They're assuming that if you're going to college, that you either went to high school and have a degree, or you've got a GED. All right, so there's really no sense in putting that in. As it says, design this page any way you'd like. I forgot to do that. I will email each one of you a copy of the Rankin AWD curriculum sheet. If you don't want to use any of that, fine, but at least you'll have it. The work history I mentioned, the call me button, as it says, we will make this operational as a class. We did. The email me button, we will make that operational as a class. We did. If desired, you can make a splash screen, or you can just use this screen right here. That's either way is fine. All right, I don't really care. Okay, questions on that one? Any questions? All right, then let me go back to this. And I'm going to do a file, save all, and a file, close project. Well, yeah, it's still running, but that's fine. All right, stop the run here. And I'm going to bring up my other one just to show you what it looks like. So where is that? Guessing game extended. All right. So I'm going to run this one. We'll go over everything that's in there in just a moment. All right. So you'll notice I've got a splash screen. You might think it's ugly as hell. That's totally fine, but there it is. Boom, and then it goes to this screen. You are to design these to look any way you want them to look. Make sense? I mean, if you want to change the background color or whatever, totally fine. All right, so notice if I come in here and I do 50 and click calculate, you've seen all this stuff before. I've got it so it's going to automatically disappear on there. So 25. All right, so it's between 12 and 25. And I got it 6 guesses. So notice it says here rank is average, and if I click on rank, I don't know why it's doing that. Worked fine yesterday. But it'll come out to a page that's got an image on there that says average. Okay? All right. So, and I don't know why it's doing that, but it is. So, it's interesting that it's jumped back to that, but it did. Let me run it again. Somehow it's gotten hosed. So when you look in here, after this comes up, I'm not even going to run the program again other than to just show you. The calculate button should be clear what it did. I should have really made all these the same size. All right. And you may or may not have noticed it. I put a hint in there at the beginning. It says the number is 44. You don't have to do that. That takes away a lot of the stuff from the game. All right. But I'd like it if you made your buttons the same size. I just think it looks more professional when you do that. All right. And the totals page, of course it would break now. Like I said, I ran it yesterday and it worked just fine. But the totals page should do that. It should take you to the totals. So let's go back and let's just take a look at what's in here. All right, so where is that? It's right here. Okay, so shown below are the original requirements for the guessing game app you did in homework 1. I'm not going to read that. You can read it. That's nothing new. That's the original things, so you have those available to you. All right. For this next iteration, as it says, you should be able to just make a copy of what you're working on and call it guessing game or guess extended or something like that. Now, if you don't want to, you could use the original one. If you're going to use the original one, for gosh sakes, make a copy of the original just in case you screw this one up. All right, so add a new button that goes under the calculate. As it says, it should have the word rank on there, and it should bring up the new rank activity. So that's going to be another activity that you're going to add. You'll pass the total number of guesses there, all right, using an intent. And what you'll have in there, I just made this up. If you don't like the scale I used, you can change it. If you don't like the verbiage I used, you can change it. But I said if you guess it between 1 and 5 guesses, you're a wow. All right. If it's between 6 and 10, you're average. If it's over 10, you're a novice. So what I'd like you to do, as it says there, if you can come up and you can check for Google Images for just about anything. All right. But if you find something that you've got in there that you think this makes a lot of sense for average, but it doesn't have the word average in it, then put in a text view with the word average. All right, but I don't think you'll have to do that, but if that's what way you want to do it, you can. Now, I'd like you to take a look at this, because this is a little different. It says, after the wow, average, and novice buttons have been shown, disable the rank button again. In other words, you shouldn't be able to click rank until you've guessed. Does that make sense? Now, there is an enabled property. So you want to use the name of the button, .enabled, and then just the word false. That'll disable it. Do that near the end, all right? Because it made me think a little bit because I hadn't done it in a while, and it broke my program when I did it originally. So, like I said, do it towards the end. All right. As it says, there'll be a totals button, and when you press that, you'll go to another activity that will show you the total number of wows, the total number of averages, the total number of novices. All right, call it something like totals activity. As it says, design the page yourself. Include a back to main page button on each new activity that you're creating. Make sure to add only the finish statement. And then finally, as it says, add any color or other pizzazz that you want to the project to make it look and feel professional, including, I do want this, your own professionally designed splash screen. Use any kind of colors you want. I would recommend you use the same background color for all screens. I've had people do this one and say, you know what, I use different colors. I'm making this for little kids. Okay, then do that. All right, I'm not going to take off any points for you doing that or give you any points for doing that. All right, so the rest of the period today, all period tomorrow, will be lab both periods. All right, it's not due until a week from Wednesday, but on Wednesday, when you come in here, I'm going to give you the test. All right, and that test, which you'll be given out on the 26th, will not be due until like Monday the 7th or something like that. I want to make sure you've got enough time. Like I said, the hope is that with this stuff, you're going to want to take at least 3 or 4 of these, maybe more, including your final project. You're going to want to take those and you're going to want to put those into your electronic portfolio. All right, then the last thing I want to say real quick, if you look up on the screen, please, I emailed this to you earlier today. Now, just in case, because I want you to start thinking, and what I'm hoping is sometime around when your test is due, all I want is a 1-paragraph explanation of what you plan on doing your final app on. Now, because people say, well, I changed my mind. Can I change? Yes, you still can. All right? But then what's going to happen is in a couple more weeks after that, I don't know if you guys remember, but I think we used it, and if you didn't, you'll get it. That balsamic mock-up tool. All right, we'll look at and we'll talk about how to mock up the screens, and I'll show you that. It's not difficult to do. But as it says here, and you can see it's English. That's why they don't use Z's. They use S for everything. But it's 41 pages. I went through this article. I got it this weekend. And as it says, 55 trending mobile app ideas for 2021. Now, I'm not going to go through any of them, but there are different ideas. So if you're stuck on what to do, you don't have to choose one of these. Choose your own. All right, if there's something, no, I know what I want to do, it's this, and it's not in that list, that's totally fine. But if you're stuck for some kind of an idea, this might help get you started. All right? So again, the rest of the period today, so in other words, 3 hours today and 3 hours and 50 minutes tomorrow will all be lab. When you come in here on Wednesday, all right, I'm going to give you the test for lessons 2 and 3. There'll be 2 problems. All right, you will have, like I said, more than a week to finish that. It's around a week. I don't know exactly when it is, but I've got it written down. And then Thursday when you come in, we will go over unit or lesson 4, that's pretty long. So that'll take most of the period. If we get it done, and my hope is we do, then Friday will be lab. Questions on anything I've said today? All right, I'm going to go and wash my hands because I always clean the table off in there when I leave, and I didn't wash them today, and I feel like, ugh. So I'm going to do that, and I'll be back in just a minute.